I'm glad that I'm joined today by Ti-Hua, who is TYT's climate change investigative reporter. Thanks for joining us. It's a really it's an exciting time for people who cover this stuff, because all of these choices are being made by Joe Biden and his team as to who will be the nominees for his cabinet posts. And I want to take a look at some that, that fall under the umbrella that you cover specifically, and then maybe we'll flirt with some of the others later on about which neither of us necessarily have expertise, but it's fun to talk about. But let's talk a little bit about the environment. Let's talk about the climate. Let's talk about energy and some of the names you want to talk about, Ti-Hua.
Well, I think Joe Biden's basically got a mixed bag here, and it almost seems as if he's trying to please a lot of people who supported him. In one case, please those who did not support him. You have to keep in mind Joe Biden's goals are stated to decarbonize the electric grid by 2035, which is, pretty ambitious and really unique for a presidential candidate, and promote electric vehicles and restrict oil development on federal land, exact opposite of what Donald Trump did. Now, he's picked so far or nominated so far a very diverse cabinet. As I said, you get the sense he's trying to definitely please those who supported him in part of this. Now, it's been reported this week that he's going to nominate former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm to be the Secretary of the Department of Energy. Now, she knows the auto industry, which could be very helpful for the climate change. And now DOE normally focuses on nuclear weapons, but they also, during the Obama administration, did fund a lot of research that subsequently helped develop and make more efficient renewable energy technology. So that's an important position. And because she's connected to the auto industry, the big three focused in Detroit, she knows them well. She may be able to deal with them in terms of transitioning to having the all electric vehicles by 2035 or later. Now, for White House climate coordinator to coordinate environmental efforts within the United States, it's reported that he's going to pick Gina McCarthy, the former head of the EPA under Obama, and now the president of the NRDC. That's the Natural Resource Development Council. Now, that's one of the biggest environmental organizations in the country. And while she was president, NRDC sued the Trump administration 100 times on issues ranging from emission standards to protecting some endangered species. So she's been praised by a lot of progressive environmentalists, including the Sunrise movement. Now, he's already mentioned and officially picked the White House presidential climate envoy, John Kerry, former senator and former Secretary of State John Kerry, who helped write the Paris Climate Accord. Now, between the two of them, between the White House climate coordinator, if it is in fact Gina McCarthy, and John Kerry, they will together be the climate czar, one domestically and one dealing with foreign governments. We don't know who he's going to pick for the EPA, but one good thing came out of that, which was surprising, that for a long time, Mary Nichols, who heads essentially California's version of the EPA, she was almost certain to be, everyone said, oh, she's going to be the choice for the EPA. But 70 environmental organizations, many of them environmental organizations of color, opposed her, saying that while she was heading California's efforts, she embarked on what they called environmental racism. In particular, what it was there's something called cap and trade, where corporations could actually purchase the right to pollute. And these environmental groups said when they did that, it ended up infecting communities of color more often than anywhere else. And Biden backed off of his favorite. And those are some good things. So we may have to head the EPA some last minute possible candidates who were not in consideration before. Michael Regan, a senior North Carolina environmental official who's African American, Richard Reviz, a New York University law professor who's originally from Argentina, or his ethnicity is. And so they may, in fact, be, and they are considered to be very progressive environmentalists. Now, that's the plus side for us. There's a negative side to all this, and I'll go through this quicker. And that's the choice of Tom Vilsack, nominating him. He's the former Iowa governor, and he did support Joe Biden during the Iowa caucuses and stuff. And he, under President Obama, he was the Secretary of Agriculture. But he has very close ties to big agriculture. That's huge business in the U.S. In January 2017, right after Trump took office, Tom Vilsack became the head of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. In other words, he during this critical period of climate change, where livestock contributes anywhere from 20 to 25% of greenhouse gases globally, we will have a Secretary of Agriculture, if he's approved, who basically headed the dairy industry. It almost seems like an obvious conflict of interest. Now, the other parts of this were the possibility for Secretary of Interior for Tom Udall, and he's up against Deb Haaland, Representative Deb Haaland. Both of them are from New Mexico, and also for White House liaison, he's proposing Representative Cedric Richmond from Louisiana. Now, I did a story on this in the last couple of weeks, most recently Friday, where both Senator Udall, and Representative Richmond have proposed bills that will charge fossil fuel companies more to be able to use federal land. And that sounds like a good thing. That sounds like it makes a lot of sense. The only problem is some progressive environmentalists and some members, Democratic staffers on the Hill, say this could perpetuate the fossil fuel industry. And it's what the fossil fuel industry wants. They want to be able to do that. If you don't have a time limit, that's what will happen.
So you have these Bidenesque picks. And when I say Bidenesque, people have been around for a very long time. You're talking about John Kerry. You're talking about Jen Granholm. And I should say that Jen Granholm is a former colleague and friend, so I'm not going to editorialize on Jen Granholm. But then you have Gina McCarthy. And these are names that have been around for quite a while. And you don't have Mary Nichols, who's somebody who may be new to a lot of people. Do you think there's a problem, Ti-Hua, in not bringing in new energy, literally and figuratively, into the administration when you're Joe Biden? And or is this just to be expected and doesn't need to be criticized because of what it is, because it could be okay?
I think that's a point, but I think it's a minor point. I think what's really more important, I mean, it'd be good to have young progressive people there, and I think that's important. But I think also what's more important is the policies these individuals will bring. There's no doubt that Gina McCarthy will be a very strong environmentalist. I think that's something that everyone will agree on, and she's going to be the climate coordinator domestically. On the other hand, Tom Vilsack is probably going to be very supportive of the big agriculture business. So it's more, to me, what will they do? What's their record? What are they going to do in terms of the climate? We have one person in Gina McCarthy, very, very positive for the climate, and one person, Tom Vilsack, probably not very good.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. When you look at Tom Vilsack, he's another one of those who's really been around for quite a while. And a lot of, the farmers that I've spoken to on the campaign trail have said that they need to straighten things out just about farming more than they care about any other issue, whether it has to do with tariffs, whether it has to do with subsidies, which they don't want. They just want to farm the land, or control of big agriculture. So when I speak to farmers, they're not talking so much about climate. I know from afar, I think about that, and clearly you do in your everyday work, and Vilsack does not. So the Secretary of Agriculture, again, not through your lens, but in general, is he there to do both, or she to look at what's ailing farmers, or is what's ailing the climate the most important part of their job now?
Well, in the long run, it's really what's ailing the climate that's going to be the most important thing for all of us, especially our children and grandchildren. I mean, we're facing a climate crisis. Remember, 2,600 scientists said for the UN IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, we're reaching a crisis situation. And those scientists have said it's speeding up. The global warming is speeding up faster than even they predicted. So I think that the climate change is the more important issue. But obviously, for the farmers, it's an important issue as well. It's not to say it's not important. It's just I think the climate situation is a climate crisis that is the critical thing that we have to address. And at least Biden is trying to address that. And I think that we need, as progressives need, to push him to make sure that, yes, whomever you choose, if you're comfortable with them, that's fine, as long as they get the job done, because there's no more time to waste. The wildfires, the hurricanes, the et cetera, the droughts, they're all pointing to there's no more time to waste. It's now or never.
Do you think progressives on balance, have a good reason to either be pleasantly surprised or actually even enthused about the nominees for these positions, that a president who was not their first choice initially, that they should be happy about what they're seeing, pleasantly surprised, Ti-Hua?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think they can be happy about Gina McCarthy and they can be unhappy about Tom Vilsack. I think and it's yet to be seen. What's yet to be seen is how much will Joe Biden be able to accomplish of those goals he's talked about. One thing I do like to always say is that, the Green New Deal, to me, in checking is this $16 trillion is what we really are going to need. And this 1.7 trillion is a good start, but it's not going to be enough. On the other hand, though, Donald Trump was negative 16 trillion in terms of the climate, my opinion.
And that's part of it too. It's like whatever is there is going to be better from a progressive standpoint, but will it be enough? And of course, time will tell. And this president never promised that he would be the progressive dream, but he certainly is listening to them, and we can see it in some of his cabinet picks. Ti-Hua, thanks for being on the conversation.
Thanks, Michael. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.